All right, all right. Good morning. It is the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It is 8:04 a.m. It is also August 29th. The dust has started to settle just a little bit. Everyone's kind of gearing up now towards week one versus the Rams, if you're a Detroit Lion fan. And I have to say, man, that's kind of where I'm at. You know, I kind of lost that love and feeling. Like I said, like, you know, that second preseason game just kind of did it for me. I'm ready, man. I am ready for this season to get started. I'm pumped. I'm jacked. Watching what the Lions did with the roster this year, man, it is what a transformation, right? Evolution is the word that I've used early and often this season. This roster has evolved. Good morning, Eric. Good morning to everybody in the chat. Eric, what's happening today, man?
Oh, man. Seeing this Lions roster, it's something else, man. This is awesome stuff.
Yeah, it's quite a bit different when, you know, there's a lot of things we did not expect. And I think that's been the commonality between, you know, us and other media members, fans. I mean, a lot of us were kind of together on a lot of the choices that should have made this team. And the Lions had to do some gymnastics with this roster. We've spoken about it a couple of times. And a lot of it is due to the injuries that the Lions are facing. And how are they going to maintain the roster and not lose guys? And, you know, they might have had the, you know, under the table deals with some of these guys, because the guys that I projected to hit the roster have pretty much all made the team in one way, shape, or form. And I think that's phenomenal news. And there's only been a couple of guys that have gone elsewhere, you know, throughout this process. And I've heard other teams' fans talk about that. And they're saying that, well, you know, some of our guys are making other teams' practice squads, and that's just telling you how deep we are, or how, you know, good our roster is. Is it? Or is it telling you that, you know, maybe they didn't want to come back to that team for whatever reason? Or maybe the other teams that they went to weren't as deep and they needed anybody to fill a spot. Now, I am a believer that when, you know, you have guys that are picked up from other teams, that is a good sign, you know, that you're bringing in good quality players. I will say that. But I don't always agree with just because they get picked up by other teams that means that you've got the best roster in the North, or you've got the best roster, you know, in the NFC or the AFC or whatever. I don't think the number of players that get picked up matter. I think the number of players that stay matter even more, because a lot of the guys that could have signed elsewhere, that have, you know, the accrued amount of seasons as a free agent, they don't have to come back to your team. But the fact that they want to come back, and they probably were slighted not making the 53-man roster, I think that speaks volumes more so than anything else. What do you think? Do you understand where I'm trying to go with this?
Oh, yeah. And this morning, Braylon Dennis already with this $5 super chat. He says, I may be in the minority, but I am still not confident in our wide receiver room or our defensive end room. Well, I'm going to say this about our wide receiver room. It's not very often that this guy sitting in this chair right here clamors for a free agent to come to the Detroit Lions. I hardly ever am like, hey, we need this guy. We need this guy. I want this guy to come to Detroit. Hardly ever. And Tim Patrick was one that I wanted to come to Detroit, and he's coming to Detroit. Somebody put in our Voxer chat this morning an interview with Tim Patrick from earlier this season. Man, this guy's got a head on his shoulders. I'm loving this pickup already.
I'm glad you brought that up.
You heard it first. Tim Patrick is going to be, I'm not going to say like some big giant contributor on our team, but between him and JMO are going to more than make up for the loss of Josh Reynolds this year.
I hope you're right. And Braylon, appreciate your $5 super chat, my man. And I appreciate all the support. So if you guys noticed right away this morning, the members exponentially have grown. We are 1 week in. And matter of fact, the number's already wrong, because we had another one that joined throughout the night, but I already had the graphic done. And that gentleman's name was, or is, I want to make sure I don't forget anybody here, is Dave Scott. So Dave Scott joined the Lions Faithful membership this morning or sometime throughout the night. Appreciate you. Welcome to the crew. There is a great opportunity now that we've got these memberships open, man. They are really going to help us drive to the 50K goal that we're trying to get this year for Rocked On Cancer Foundation. And then Trace, again, Trace is just at it every day. She just added another 5 members to this group. So that is, we were just at 42 and we're now at 47 members in a week. That is unheard of growth, man. That I appreciate you, Trace, and everybody. It's unexpected, but it's appreciated. And everyone that gets a membership this morning by Trace, you gotta give her a super shout out, man.
Okay.
So good morning to everybody in the chat. Today is just going to be a conversation. Really not a whole lot of prep. We're going to have a little conversation about the NFC North, take a look at the rosters from each team, the practice squads, maybe play a little fun game with it a little bit later on and see who's winning the war, I guess, in the practice squad, like with your practice squad. So Chef kind of did something like that last night a little bit. But whose practice squad is better? Like if you were to suit up, the Lions versus the Packers or, whatever in week 1, and it was practice squad, eligible only, that had to play both ways, who would win? I think that's kind of a fun exercise. So we'll look at that. And that's really dependent upon who's on the roster, right? You might have way too many offensive linemen on the roster, on the practice squad. So you're kind of limited, but we'll get there at some point throughout the end. You'll notice the screen this morning's a little bit changed. You'll see some things in here that kind of point you into a direction. Our most recent winner of the 5,500 subscriber helmet was Honolulu BS. I haven't received an email yet from Honolulu BS. So please email me at mailbag@rockedon.com. You have a helmet, man, signed, certified, authenticated, ready to be shipped out. You just got to let me know where to send it. So until I hear back, you kind of on hold getting your piece before the season starts. But anyway, every 500 subs, we do give away a signed mini helmet, Panay Sewell or Chris Spielman. And shout out to the sponsor that helps us with these items, Pro Sports Zone. We have a big sale coming up on September 7th. We're going to do a podcast at the store in Livonia. And there'll be a 2-hour special sale going on that morning. You have plenty of time to get in and get home if you're a U of M fan, so you can watch the game. I believe it is a home game that day. So we'll make sure you guys get in early, get your stuff, get out. There's going to be a lot of cool things going on there. A little wheel you can spin for extra goodies, some giveaways, some door prizes, and just get there, man. Come support Pro Sports Zone. Your local businesses deserve your support. We buy too much stuff online, in my opinion. Go visit John Yu at Pro Sports Zone. Best store I've ever seen for sports stuff, man. Best store.
I've never been to a U of M game. Maybe I should make that day the day it happens.
No, there you go. I'm sure there's going to be some tickets available. Speaking of that, has anyone watched that thing on Connor Stallions yet?
I have not.
I haven't either. I'm curious as to what happened, but
I'm going to try to today. Everybody's talking about it.
Yeah, Bo Booth says the first rule of war is lie. And I think what he's describing there is during this whole roster breakdown, right? You have a little bit of, is Dan Campbell, feeding you? Is he trying to take your eyes away from some players? And I mentioned that. Sometimes you talk about players because that's just what you see. And sometimes you're trying to draw attention away from other players. You notice how nothing was mentioned about James Houston, right? This entire offseason, and people were like, well, James Houston's just not going to make it. He's not good enough. He doesn't deserve to be on this roster. And look, he's on the roster. He deserves to be there. But why do you think that they intentionally really didn't talk about him? They did not want this guy to be picked up in case they had to release him, which I'm sure was never going to happen. But just in case they had to, they didn't want any information out there that this guy was rocking and rolling this year. Another super shout out to Braylon Dennis here. Another $10 donation, my man. Isaac, Google busted his his butt in the preseason, and he deserves a main roster spot. But James Houston does little to nothing and gets it. That doesn't sit right with me. Oh,
Google.
I don't know. Isaac Ukwu is probably what he's talking about. Isaac Ukwu. So, Braylon, I mean, look, I think the jury is probably still largely out on James Houston. So I respect the heck out of your opinion because he hasn't done a lot since since his first season because he was injured. And I'm not going to penalize James because of an injury because you look at the players that we've kept on this team that have come back to produce, that have been battling injury. Some of them were proven and some of them were not. And I think that he deserves this shot this year to see what he can do with an extremely loaded defensive front, number one. And number two, he doesn't have to play every snap. I mean, I think that having a super specialist like that is warranted. It's needed. I think that we can all agree there's many things to be worse at in the NFL than getting to the passer. And that's what he does very well. If I were to make this crazy speculation, projection, and say that James Houston is going to be your sack leader this year, I would say that could be a possibility if he stays healthy for all the games. He could be. Yes, he could have more than Marcus Davenport. And he may do it on less snaps. He could be neck and neck with Aiden Hutchinson again this season. You cannot deny the fact that when he came in 7 games, what do you have, 8.5 sacks in 7 games? And it took Aiden Hutchinson all 17 to get, 11.5 that year or 10.5 that year in 21?
Yep.
Or 22, sorry. The guy's got the skills, man. And I don't want to say that he's lost his bend yet either, because I don't know that to be true. I haven't noticed it. Is there subscriber only mode on this morning? Did someone say that? Did you notice that?
Yeah, I was on this morning. Got to be subscribed for a minute or more.
I gotta fix my YouTube Studio because when I schedule things, I reuse settings, and I must have one that has a setting on that has that. Hey, I only like to use those for the major events.
Yeah, because
it'll get crazy, and I would love for people to subscribe anyway, but that way, if they want to comment in the stream, that they're at least a subscriber. And
I actually like one of Broski's takes this morning.
There we go. It's off now. Anyone can chat now. I apologize.
He says, Hutch is on the field every play and demands double teams. It's not apples to apples. And that is correct.
Yeah, it's not correct though. Hold on. Well, if you want to be real with it, we had a great conversation with who? Just this last week.
Coach DC?
Yeah, all 22. And what did he say? He said, you cannot, well, not verbatim here, I'm going to paraphrase. You cannot take into consideration the certain stats that are coming out from, the 3 and 4 letter companies out there that drive these stats. And I've been saying this now for 3 years. The AI chips in the ball, the helmet, the shoulder pads, they cannot tell you if you are getting double teamed. They can't. They just can't. They can tell where you are on the field. That's it. They can tell how fast you run. They can tell what direction you go. But they cannot literally tell you that 2 players have engaged a defender at the same time. And if you go back and watch the tape, what you will see is Hutchinson is not always double teamed. He is chipped, right? He's picked up on a combo block. He does get double teamed at time. Absolutely. But he lost a ton of one-on-ones. He also got held a ton last year. Aleem McNeil was double teamed more than Aiden Hutchinson. And I know some of the stats out there that people were pumping, where they showed that Aiden Hutchinson had the most double and triple teams. That was AI driven, and it's wrong. You just have to watch the film. And there's no way. He made another good point. You have 32 teams, 49 players, on game day. So you do the math. If you're going to watch every single player on the field, what is there, 80 snaps in a game per team, maybe at the most. But let's just do simple math. Let's just say 50 players or 40 players per game. You got 16 games in a week. That's 640 players that could potentially be on the field. If you wanted, I guess let's do it another way. 22 players, 16 games a week. So that's 352 players. That means you need 352 people watching every snap for one player to be able to have extremely accurate details. Do you think the PFF has 352 employees just doing that? I don't think they do. I think what they're relying on is the AI that has been built in, and then the way that they've designed their stats and analytics kind of runs from there. So I would just be a little bit more protective of the information that we, swallow and vet it a little bit further. Just watch the game. And you're going to get some of that in level 2, because after every regular season and postseason game, probably the next day, within 24 hours, because I got to have time to get things set up, right? We're going to do a live stream for members only. Level 2 members only will be able to join a stream. It could be a Zoom type call or something, and we're going to go over the tape. We're going to go over the condensed all 22 version of the game. And that's where we're going to look at some of those things. We'll look at the stats that came out. Maybe we'll try to verify some things, right? Have conversation about it. It's meant to just be a comfortable conversation. That's it. We're just going to be talking about what happened, point out some things that we noticed, maybe we liked or didn't like. And I think it's just another way for us to stay, involved in the game. I think it's going to be fun. So if you're interested in becoming a member, that's the tier that I think is going to have the most fun throughout the season. But all tiers are great. You guys are going to have a blast. So where do you want to start today? I think we talked about start with quarterbacks. We're going to look at the NFC North, have a conversation. Who got better? Who didn't? Maybe do a little projections here. We got Broski in the house. We might as well just start with the Bears.
Yeah. Well, I have one question before we start all this. What happened with John Kaminsky?
I don't know what you mean.
So did he get put on IR? Is he still on the roster?
I think that's supposed to happen today.
What's up? So he's still just in limbo then?
I thought that I heard Doc say,
because I couldn't find anything. I looked all over the internet last night, and it still just shows John Kaminsky is on our roster.
Well, I mean, I think we know that the fact is this. I mean, there's a first headline that pops up a month ago is John Kaminsky suffers a torn MCL. He's out indefinitely. Yeah. Now, this is part of the roster gymnastics, right? They're hoping that he can come back by the playoffs. I don't understand this at all. Like, I don't from a is
he just a placeholder for Tim Patrick? Is that what's going on?
I doubt it. Tim Patrick is on the practice squad. He's going to have to earn his way. So he's going to be fighting with Allen Robinson and DPJ to make it up. I think the Lions still only have 52 on the roster.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at some point, John Kaminsky is going to have to go down to either PUP or IR. And I think IR will give him an opportunity now that he's on the 53. If he's IR'd, right, this week, then he can return some point throughout the season. You have to open up the 21-day window, blah, 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 blah. It's kind of like what happened with CJ Gardner-Johnson, right? I mean, he was on IR for the entire season, and then they opened up the window, and then they brought him back. Yep. So I don't know, did he even have surgery? I've never even seen any information about that.
Yeah, I didn't either. And if they put him on IR before the 53 man, then he's done for the year no matter what, right? Correct.
Right. There's only two positions that are relegated to IR that can come back. So that's the rule that the Lions put into play. And you're right, Gunny. I forgot about Nowaski. The Lions signed Trevor Nowaski directly to the team, not to the practice squad. So they did have 53 as of yesterday. So if he was IR'd before cuts and he wasn't designated as one of the two players that was reserved for that new rule that the Lions instituted this year, then he would have been done for the whole season. But the Lions feel like he's going to be able to come back. So this would be a good topic to follow up on, throughout the weekend and then next week. I'm still trying to get Doc to come on. I reached out to him last week, so I'm sure we'll catch up soon. But those are all going to be great questions for him to kind of just recap. Just kind of recap the season so far. That was my question to him. I just want to recap the season so far, what he sees, where we've been, where we are, what's next, and just have a fun little conversation with it. So shout out. Let's get a shout out to the chat and then let's get right into it. So we got Wayne Rogers in the house, Mike P, Peter Van Larhoven, Broski Bear, Moonscar, Trace, of course, Michael Garrity, Derek Struble. I hope that's how I pronounce your last name. Hope I got it right. Who else is in here? We got Mr. Morale Tarantino. Thought I just seen him. Yep, there he is. Roger Chappis, Ryan Van Valkenburg, John Jones, new member, Mike K, Dwayne Tab, TKO Barber, Chase Redfield, all new members this morning, gifted by Trace. Of course, we got Braylon Dennis in the house, Dale, Paraman 247, Dave Scott, who joined this morning. And if I'm forgetting any members, DLR Van Halen, I seen you in here a minute ago. Uperlights, of course, is in the house.
Hey, we've got almost 100 people watching. Don't forget to hit that like button. That like button. We need to do 100 likes in a row for the 9th day in a row today. Let's do it.
Yeah, you guys would help us hit a record here. And not only that, but you know that we don't do ads. And we don't do ads for the live shows because we want you to have a seamless experience this morning. We just ask that you like the stream. So anyway, everyone else that's in here, we got Casey, we got David Bianco, 40 Gumble, John Knight, Mike the Marine Guy, Gunny, we got Motown Mitch, Bo Booth, Jay Mommy, Brent DeWitt.
Casey says, I'm actually Lomas Brown.
There you go. There you go.
Nice to have you in the house, Lomas.
Well, Lomas, why don't you come on the show, buddy? King SJ, Celine 313, and a whole bunch of other people. Randy P, Braylon Dennis, already mentioned you. Fred Peterson, Doug Michael Rosine, and of course anybody else that I'm missing. This chat is already full. Derek W, L Torrey, Jack 2125, the regulars, plus a lot of new people. We appreciate you guys joining each and every day. You make this the best community, and I mean that. Like, this is the best community for Lions fans, and that's what this is all about, is building a community for us, bringing Lions fans together, and then getting our hands into the communities. How can we help our community? And that's what I'm trying to do on the back end with the help of not only you, but other partners behind the scenes, trying to make a difference. Trying to, what I call, we're going to brew hope one cup at a time together. So, all right, let's get into this. Let's get into the NFC North. Enough talk, enough chatter. Quarterback. Bears kept 2. Caleb Williams, Tyson Bagent. Is it Bagent or is it Bagent? Bagent. Okay. Green Bay Packers. They kept 2. Jordan Love, and then brought in Malik Willis. And then the Minnesota Vikings, they kept 3. Sam Darnold, Nick Mullins, and Jaron Hall. And, of course, your Detroit Lions kept 2. Jared Goff, Hendon Hooker. It's time to wake up.
Michael Garrity with the $2 super chat. Rocked on, family.
Appreciate you, Michael. Right away, what are your thoughts on the quarterback room?
Well,
who's winning? Who's losing? Who, rank it 1 to 4.
Okay.
Who's got the best quarterback room? Who's got the worst quarterback room? And then I guess as a side bet or a side conversation, who could have the most improved quarterback room by the end of the season?
Well, I'm going to say the Lions have the best quarterback room. That's just my personal opinion. And then I'm going to put the Bears at number 2. I think between Tyson Bagent and Caleb Williams, they are better than Jordan Love and Malik Willis. Malik Willis is awful. He's absolutely awful. There were so many Lions fans clamoring for him in the draft, and he has just been an absolute lump of a turd as an NFL quarterback.
Is that a technical term?
Yes, lump of a turd. He's awful. Go watch one of his games for the Titans. Go watch one of his preseason games. He's awful.
Okay.
And then
Technical term this morning, lump of a turd, lock it in.
So Lions, Bears, Packers in third, and then Vikings in fourth. But I think the most improved by the end of the year may be the Vikings. Nick Mullins is no joke, man. That kid, he played his heart out last year. And if something happens to Sam Darnold, he's a competent backup. So I'd almost put them above the Packers just because the Packers do not have a competent backup.
So quick question before we continue. I apologize, I didn't mean to interrupt, but how is our volume? Are we pretty even on volume this morning? Do we need any adjustments? I always feel like Eric's a little low.
Says Eric with the technical analysis.
Yeah, the lump of a turd. The lump of a turd, man. That's hilarious. So here's my quick thoughts here. Eric, you're a little bit low. Let me bump you up just a little bit here. Okay. I got you. I got you on my side. Here's where I'm at. Obviously, Jared Goff is leading the NFC North by far. It's like not even close, in my opinion. Jordan Love had a great second half of the season, but now there's tape. There's expectations for the Green Bay Packers. How is he going to come back this season under this immense amount of pressure, knowing that he's expected to win because of what transpired the last, 8-9 games of the season last year, starting off extremely slow, completely out of the playoffs, and then bang, they make the playoffs, and then they completely shatter the Cowboys. So I'm going to leave Love alone for just a second. I'll come back to him. Caleb Williams hasn't done anything. I do not care about winning 4 preseason games. We know what the Lions did when they won 4 preseason games. I don't care about this stupid stat that I saw the other day that when you are plus 60 or whatever in preseason games with points scored, that you go on to make the playoffs and potentially the Super Bowl. Who cares about that? I mean, I could go and find a stat for anything. I could make up a stat for anything that you want that would point the Lions into the Super Bowl or any team. The Titans, I could make them look like they're going to make it to the Super Bowl. So I don't like to see those stats. They are meaningless. The preseason is meaningless. Yeah, he went up against, a couple of ones, in the preseason, but not all of them. No team had all of their ones in against Caleb Williams. Yeah. Did he make some nice throws? Absolutely. Did he move around the pocket? 1,000%. Did he look capable? Absolutely. There's a reason why last year was it last year or 2 years ago? I said that Caleb Williams was going to be the number 1 quarterback taken in this year's draft, and he was. And I also said if the Lions couldn't figure out something with Goff, and there was any potential that Goff was not going to be our quarterback, that I would have loved to have had Caleb Williams join our roster. But then something happened this last year with Caleb Williams. Like he totally changed as an individual from what I was watching and seeing. Now his play didn't really change a whole lot, but he had a terrible season, in my opinion, this last year. Throws way too many interceptions, and he changed as an individual. So for all those reasons, I was then out on Caleb Williams. Still fully expected him to go number 1. But there's just not enough here for me to say that Caleb is going to do anything. He's got a great amount of weapons, right? Offensive line is still porous, but he hasn't really taken a true snap in an NFL game. How can you say anything about this guy right now, in my opinion?
I still put him ahead of Malik Willis.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But we're talking, 1s first, then 2s, then 3s. So then it's the Vikings, right? You have Sam Darnold. Now here's my hot take on a Thursday, right? Sam Darnold is going to be, if he stays healthy, he'll probably be the second best quarterback in the NFC North. This guy's got a rocket for an arm. He's extremely intelligent. He knows how to run an offense. He's clicking. Now I know preseason doesn't mean anything, but he was clicking with this offense, right away. JJ McCarthy isn't, creeping on his heels because JJ's done for the year. This is Sam Darnold's offense, and he's got quite a few weapons around him. Now I know that they lost was Addison, I think, for the first 6 games or something like that. Or who did the Vikings lose to suspension? Do you know?
I don't. The Vikings lost somebody to suspension.
Yeah.
Oh, Addison.
Addison. Isn't that what I just said?
Yeah, Addison.
Yeah, Addison. So they're going to lose a big time weapon, that it's not going to be at his disposal, but he still has Justin Jefferson.
How many games did he get? Do you know?
I thought it was 6, but maybe it was 3 or 4. It doesn't matter. Either way, here he goes. 3 weeks.
Okay.
So first 3-4 weeks of the season or whatever. I think that Sam Darnold is going to surprise a lot of people. And I think that Jordan Love is going to be your number 3. And I think that Caleb Williams is going to be your number 4. That's my take. And I'm sticking with it until I see something change. I have nothing to base Caleb Williams off of right now. I have about 8 games worth of, Jordan Love that are great and another 9 that are not so great. So, I got to see him perform in a second season before I can, give him his flowers, if you will. Sam Darnold, he's been hanging around the lead for a while. And I think that he can do it. And I think he will. It doesn't mean that the Vikings are going to make the playoffs. Doesn't mean that they're going to, be a threat for anybody in the NFC North. That's not the discussion here. The discussion is who's better, who has the potential to have a better season. And I think that Sam Darnold does. And I honestly think that he's going to be a tough quarterback to go up against when the Lions face him. Any thoughts on that? Any recants?
Just that. Listen, I have a feeling. Let's say,
feeling.
So you take all NFC North teams. In week 1, all of the starting quarterbacks go down to a tweaked ankle. It's nothing serious, but they're going to be out for 1 full game. I am not taking Malik Willis to win a game. Nick Mullins could win a game. Tyler Bagent could win a game. And I think Hendon Hooker could win a game. But Malik Willis, there's absolutely no way I would trust him to win a game. I think I would have the most confidence in Bagent first, and then Nick Mullins second, and then Hooker third. So that's the way I would rank our backup quarterbacks. And Malik Willis, he could go off with Nate Sudfeld. Like, seriously, they could go play together in some alternate league somewhere else. That's about how good he is.
All right. So I just listened to the stream. I don't hear an echo. If there was one a minute ago, I don't know where it went, but I don't hear one. So
come and go thing.
I haven't heard one at all, but I have no idea why there would be one. I thought we had all that stuff fixed. So there it is for me. Lions number 1. Vikings, quarterback room right now is number 2. And this really isn't based off the depth, because if you were to base it off the depth, I mean, I guess you could base it off the depth, but is Nick Mullins better than Tyson Bagent?
Yeah, about the same.
Okay.
Right.
Is Malik Willis better than any one of those 2 guys? Absolutely not. Not right now. Is Hendon Hooker better than Tyson Bagent and Nick Mullins?
I'd say they're pretty equal.
I would say that Hendon is probably not better than Nick Mullins at this point.
No.
I would even say that I would say that Nick Mullins has the edge on Hendon right now, but I think that'll change as we get through the season.
Yep.
And then, of course, when you look at the Packers here, Malik Willis, I think that he's potentially the second to last worst backup quarterback in the NFC North.
I think he's the worst backup quarterback in the NFL.
He could be, but I don't think he's worse than Jaron Hall.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know who Jaron Hall is.
Hall's not too bad. He's actually been doing okay from what I hear.
Is Nick Fromm better than Malik Willis? Jake Fromm?
Yeah.
Come on.
I'll take Jake Fromm all day over Malik Willis. He's that bad.
Dude, you gotta stop drinking Kool-Aid at 6 a.m.
No. It's Kool-Aid every day.
Oh my goodness. All right, so what do you guys feel in the chat? Rank them 1 to 4. You can just, spit it out in order. Lions, Packers, Bears, Vikings. I'm going Lions, Vikings, Packers, Bears. That's where I'm at. Lions, Vikings, Packers, Bears in the quarterback room. This could be a long show. Running back room. Here we go. Chicago Bears, they brought in DeAndre Swift. We know who he is. Khalil Herbert diced us up a couple of seasons ago. Rashawn Johnson, pretty damn good running back. Travis Homer, I don't know enough about him. Green Bay, they kept Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd, Emmanuel Wilson. I think that could potentially be the weakest room after the starter. Running backs for the Vikings, they kept Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler. I think that Ty Chandler is an intriguing option. And then you got the Lions. Clearly have the deepest running back room in the league. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Sione Vaki, and Craig Reynolds. So I'll let you run with it first, starting with the Chicago Bears. What are your thoughts on DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert, Rashawn Johnson, Travis Homer?
Not a bad room. The former Lion, Philadelphia Eagle, DeAndre Swift, as long as he stays healthy, he's a good running back when he has a good offensive line. What is something that the Bears do not have? A good offensive line. So I don't know how this is going to work with the Bears. Is he going to play for 3 weeks and then have a hurt shoulder or something? That's probably what's coming, just to warn you, Broski Bear and everyone else. I've been watching the Hard Knocks with the Chicago Bears. They have not shown DeAndre Swift or Herbert for 1 second on that show. They have not had 1/2 a second of screen time on that show whatsoever.
But why do you think that is?
And I don't know. Well, Swift do you remember when Swift was on the Lions for Hard Knocks and they made such a big deal about how he wouldn't play through injury?
Right.
So I'm wondering if that's the same thing now with the Bears. He just doesn't want anything to do with Hard Knocks whatsoever. He got too much slack for it.
Could be. I don't know. So Bears, obviously they have a decent room. So Packers.
Yeah. The Packers, they have, what's his name? Josh Jacobs. That's it. And they better hope that 30-something-year-old, or 28, whatever he is, he's pushing 30. They better hope that he stays healthy, and they better hope that he is half of what he was the last couple of years that he played for the Raiders, because I don't think they have anyone else. They just lost A.J. Dillon for the year to IR, and I have no clue who they have behind him.
Vikings. Got Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler.
Yeah, I think Aaron Jones, he impressed me as a Packer, and I think he's out for the revenge tour. He got it as a slap in the face that the Packers didn't want him back, and they wanted Josh Jacobs. So he is going to be a man on the mission, especially when it comes to the Vikings-Packers games. So I'm going to have fun watching those games. It's going to be fun rooting for the Vikings on those games. Because I will never ever root for the Packers no matter who they're playing. And it's going to be very interesting in the NFC North this year. I think that the Vikings running backs would be third, so I would go Lions, Bears, Vikings, Packers as far as running backs go, and there's no question in that.
Interesting. Dave Scott says he loves our running back room. Motile Mitch says Lions, Vikings, Packers, and Bears in that order. I assume that was for quarterback play. Trey says we are still short on likes, and if you want ads, then I don't know what to say. Just help a brother out. Just smash the like button. Appreciate it. Yep. Motile Mitch says Packers, Bears is a close one. You could switch either. Got the Raw podcast in this morning. It says Lions and Packers made postseason last year. Derek Struble says Swift plays scared, avoids contact whenever possible, so we're going to make him cry and whine when they play us this season. You're not lying, man. He does not play with a vicious intent. And I don't know what that was all about with the Lions, because Deuce Staley called him out. And it really didn't change, but he didn't finish runs. and he kind of would veer out of bounds or get down, and he didn't want to, take a hit or give a hit, or fight for that extra couple of yards that truly makes all the difference in the world. That's why they say football is a game of inches, man. Like, you just need, an extra foot or two here or there, and it's just getting you closer to the door prize of the end zone. Broski Bear, I want to know where you've got your running back room.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know. He does say that the Bears don't have a superstar running back, but they have a good running back room. Bears use all three of their running backs every game. So I would argue that with you. You don't have Justin Fields now, so you have the benefit of not having your main running back be your quarterback. But Caleb Williams also has some wheels. I don't know how much he's I don't think he wants to run first. Quite honestly, I think that Hendon Hooker wants to run more than Caleb Williams does at this point, from what I've seen. But here's my points on Chicago Bears. Rashawn Johnson, second season. Obviously, he was drafted last year, round 4. He got in a decent amount last year, played in 15 games, 81 carries, 352 yards. That's a pretty solid season for a backup, or a backup of a backup. Rashawn Johnson has a unique ability, in my opinion, to kind of climb up this depth chart if he gets opportunities. I would say that, right away, without going into every detail here, I think that the Bears definitely have the second deepest running back room. But to Broski's point, they don't really have a superstar. They have a bunch of, just better than average guys, maybe. Khalil Herbert, he diced the Lions up a couple of times. But last season, he only had 611 yards on the season. 132 carries, got in 12 games. Obviously, I think he must have suffered from some injuries, but he was a 2021 round 6 pick. So again, no superstar here, but he does have the ability to be dynamic any given moment he touches the ball. And then you have DeAndre Swift, which we know enough about DeAndre Swift that he just does not excite me. He seemed to have a different style to his game when he was with the Eagles. For whatever reason, I did see him finish a little bit more forward. He did seem to, not mind taking a hit, giving a hit. But last year with Philly, what were his stats here? He had 1,049 rushing yards. So that was, I think, better than both of the Lions running backs. He was in a very well-balanced offense that, every team had to worry about Jalen Hurts and in the rest of the wide receiver room there. So he was in a very unique situation where there was a lot of threats on that team that every opponent had to worry about, which I think opened the door for him. And Philly had a phenomenal offensive line. So he doesn't have that with Chicago. He had that with Detroit. He didn't do enough with it. 229 carries last year, 1,049 yards. He's clearly the leader of the room, but combined, I'm not even going to get really into Travis Homer because he's just kind of been, a guy that's taken up a roster spot. He literally ran for 0 yards last year, and he was elevated for 16 games with the Chicago Bears. But overall, I would say it's a pretty deep room. Green Bay Packers, Josh Jacobs, a guy coming from Las Vegas Raiders, played in 13 games last year, injury bug last season, 233 carries, 805 yards. His best season was in 2022, where he had 1,653 yards for 12 TDs. That is a phenomenal season. And his second best season, even though he didn't have as many yards, was in 2020, where he ran for 1,065 and 12 TDs. This is a guy that finds the end zone. He just does. But he also needs a solid, offensive line like every running back does to be able to do his work. And I don't think that that's an indictment on any running back. Every running back needs somebody in front of them to open up a hole. But then you also have the element of surprise in what can this running back bring to the table that is different than the next guy. And Josh Jacobs does finish forward. He is not afraid to mix it up. He does hit a hole with intent. He is very fun to watch when he's healthy. I just don't see him being a huge benefactor of the Green Bay Packers offensive line this year. I think that both the Bears and the Packers are kind of struggling up front. But if they made the right moves this offseason and brought in the right players, and if that offensive line gets better, look, I would say that Josh Jacobs is going to be better than DeAndre Swift, to be honest with you, especially when you look at the rest of Green Bay's roster that's surrounding them. But then you also have to look at Chicago. They got DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze. They got, viable threats on the outside that your team is going to have to pay attention to. And that means you're not going to be able to sink everybody into the box. And that will allow DeAndre Swift to get loose and catch a pass out of the backfield. That will allow even Josh Jacobs, when you have players like Luke Musgrave or Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, the wide receivers on that squad are no slouches, man. These guys can move, and they can take the pressure away from the running back. It's going to be, in my opinion, a toss-up between who finishes better than who. I think overall the Chicago Bears are going to have a deeper room that is going to get utilized more widely, meaning everyone's probably going to get a little bit, of action here or there. But DeAndre Swift should lead that squad. For the Packers, obviously with Josh Jacobs, he is your guy. Marshawn Lloyd, yeah, he's a good backup. Emmanuel Wilson, don't know enough about him. For the Vikings, they're in trouble. I mean, they're bringing back Aaron Jones, right? We're bringing in Aaron Jones from the Packers, so he knows the NFC North well. He had a fairly rough go at it last year. 142 attempts, 656 yards. I want to say he got the majority of the snaps last year when Dillon was out, or was it the other way around? Was Jones out and Dillon was in? Someone correct me here. Was it flip-flopped? I can't remember now.
It's the Packers.
It's the Packers. I guess when I look at the games that he played, he was in at least 11 or 12 of the games last year. And he did start the season off. And then he looks like he kind of disappeared a little bit there for a few games. So Aaron Jones, look, the jury's out on this guy. I think the Vikings are going to, they've got the same problem. Their offensive line is just a little bit light. But again, we're talking about three dynamic running backs at one point throughout their career. DeAndre Swift has, he's elusive. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. Josh Jacobs, man, if he's got, any light of day in front of him, he's going to hit it. Aaron Jones, is he going to be, the Aaron Jones of old? Or is Ty Chandler going to step up and finally start to show what he can do in this league? He's only been in the league for what will be his third season. Last season, he ran for 461 yards. Not a bad year, 4.5 average. I think between the two of them, they'll be okay. But then you get to the Detroit Lions. This is clearly the deepest running back room in the league. And I don't care who wants to argue that with me. I'll take it on all day. You're going to have two running backs that are going to post 1,000 yards or more on the ground. You could potentially see Jahmyr Gibbs finally get more active in the passing game, considering, and especially considering the fact that the wide receiver room for the Lions is really not justified at the fourth and fifth position right now. Like they just don't know, who's going to step up as an X receiver. Are they going to find that guy that can take the pressure off and be, helpful to the Lions team throughout this season? So until we see that, I think that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to find more opportunity in the passing game, which adds a whole nother level and dimension to this team that we really didn't experience last year. And for that reason, you cannot ignore Jahmyr Gibbs at all. No matter where he is on the field, you cannot ignore him. And that means that even if he doesn't get the ball that play, someone else is going to be open because of that. You have to put a spy on Jahmyr Gibbs. And I don't mean a spy in the sense of a scheme, but someone has to be watching him all the time. And then you got David Montgomery. The guy, he was nicknamed the bowling ball at one point, and there's a reason why. He crashes the line. He is one of the most physical, gifted runners that I've seen in a long time, and coming from the Chicago Bears, catching a lot of flack. The reason why I don't trust what the Chicago Bears can do with their running back room is because of what we've seen with Montgomery. He didn't do a whole lot with the Bears because that offensive line was pretty porous. And then he comes to the Lions, and all the Bears fans kept saying he's not going to do anything. And he busts out for over 1,000 yards and had an amazing season. He's going to do it again this year. I think between the two of them, you're going to have almost 2,800 yards, I think, between the two of them combined through the air and on the ground. So Lions number 1. I'm going to have to go with the Bears at number 2 here, simply because they have 3 running backs that can play the game. Like if you're down DeAndre, Khalil can pick it up. If you're down Khalil, Rashawn Johnson, even though he's still young, I think that he showed enough where, he can be impressive. Green Bay Packers, I don't trust Josh Jacobs right now, and especially entering this offense that is still missing some pieces on the offensive line, in my opinion. I just don't trust him. But I'm going to put Green Bay at number 3. And look, I think that the Vikings are just they're in a world of hurt right here with just Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler, without getting into the practice squad. So Lions 1, Bears 2, Packers 3, Vikings 4. Agree, disagree? Tell me why. Tell me why not.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you're saying. J Mommy in the chat says Rich Eisen has Gibbs as a finalist for Offensive Player of the Year. His words, not mine. Well, that's my words too. I've been saying it all off season long.
What? No JMO?
No, about Gibbs.
I'm saying no JMO.
Oh yeah, I know. We'll see. But listen, I think Gibbs is going to be up for a finalist for Offensive Player of the Year. He got a couple of votes last year. Year 2, he's going to be a monster. This kid's going to be really good.
All right, we are coming up on the 9 o'clock hour already. We have 24 likes to get to 100. Please smash it. Let's go to a sponsor real quick. And appreciate the sponsors, man. They do a great job supporting our channel.
Every day, thousands of people are discovering Uper Lights, Michigan's newest, funnest rock to go find on the shores of the Great Lakes. Don't go out with just any light. Try the Convoy C8 from UperLights.com. It's guaranteed for life, and you'll find all the ones everyone else misses. Quality UV lights that are perfect for Uper Lights with prices starting as low as $20. Please make sure to visit UperLights.com for all your UV flashlight needs with the best guarantees on the market. Just what you wanted and not what you didn't. The best quality, the best guarantees, and the best UV flashlights from UperLights.com.
All right, and we're back. So, Chicago Bears, wide receiver room. We're going to move on here. You guys let me know in the chat where you rank the NFC North running back room. And then we're going to move on to the receivers. So, Chicago Bears. Look, this room is getting scary, but we still need to see a quarterback that can get them the ball, right? I think that's the most important thing that we've witnessed as Lions fans, during this offseason, and especially during the preseason. Nate Sudfeld just could not get the ball to the players that needed to make the plays to, secure a spot on this roster. Is it all his fault? Probably not. But I will say, if you can't get the ball to your receivers, it doesn't matter who you have in the room. Can Caleb Williams deliver? We're going to find out here in just a few short days, or, a real short week in front of us. It's going to be here in an instant. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, Tyler Scott, Velus Jones, DeAndre Carter. Now, I have to be honest. I do not know anything about Velus Jones. But when you've looked at this roster and watched them through the preseason, Hard Knocks, yep. What is your immediate reaction with the Chicago Bears wide receiver room when you're comparing it to the rest of the NFC North?
Their wide receiver room's pretty good. Let me tell you, they might have the best wide receiver room in the NFC North at this moment on paper. Now, what it's going to look like in a game with the quarterback that they have, I have no clue. It's all unknown right now. Caleb Williams has not taken a single snap in the NFL in a real game. He's the preseason wonder, but we're going to see what happens in the real games. The real games start here in just a few days. and they start out with who? The Titans, I think, for week 1. The Bears do. And yeah, DJ Moore, always really good. Rome Odunze, he's an unknown as well, but he's looked pretty good in the preseason. Keenan Allen is huge. If you haven't seen him, he's gained a bunch of weight. But he's always been good. Every season he comes in, always good. So he's a veteran. You know he's going to get it done. DJ Moore's been here for years. He's been getting it done for the last couple of years. He came over from the Panthers in that weird, crazy trade. Yeah, I think right now the Bears might have the best wide receiver room in the NFC North.
Okay. What about your Green Bay Packers?
I don't care. Them guys suck. They all got a bunch of number 2s.
Okay, now let's be realistic.
I can't stand the Packers, so the Packers suck, and let's see who they got. All right.
You got Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Malik Heath, and Bo Melton.
Yep, and I don't care for a single one of them. So I don't care what they do. I just hate the Packers. They seriously, they don't have a single 1,000-yard, 10-touchdown wide receiver on their unit. So for me, for now, until they prove me wrong, they're number 4.
So I will say this. It is extremely difficult to catch 10 touchdowns in a season. Extremely. It's not done very often. So I wouldn't analyze a roster based on that alone.
Listen, Amon-Ra did it. Justin Jefferson did it.
Yeah, but it's not common. It's not common.
Yeah, but all the other teams have a wide receiver that did it. All 3 of them.
But it's still not common when you look at the history of the NFL. It's just not. It's just not common.
But we're comparing this apple to this apple, right? We're comparing the NFC North guys to the other NFC North guys. So that's what I have to compare with.
All right, let's go to the Vikings.
Vikings, they got one heck of a wide receiver room. Justin Jefferson, they have Addison, and I don't know who they have after that. Let's see. We'll look real here quick. Get over to that screen. Depth chart. Okay, so they have Justin Jefferson, Jalen Naylor, Jordan Addison, Tristan Jackson.
Wait. Were you talking about the Vikings, right?
Yep, Vikings.
Yep.
Trent Sherfield and Brandon Powell. And Brandon Powell, he used to play for the LA Rams. That guy's really fast.
He also played for the Lions.
Yeah. Yep. And so Jordan Addison, he's going to be gone for 3 weeks. So that might hurt them for the first little while. And we got to see what good old Sam Darnold can do with Justin Jefferson. Now, Justin Jefferson, hands down, the best wide receiver in the NFC North, maybe right up there with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Some people are going to say he's better. Some people are going to say they're about the same. For now, I'm going to say Amon-Ra's got him a little bit just because Amon-Ra's got a little bit better health. Now, who's going to put up a 200-yard game? It's going to be Justin Jefferson, right? So if I had to rank these guys, I would say, let's see. I would put the Packers in 4th. Okay. Packers in 4th place. I'm going to say the Lions in 3rd, the Vikings in 2nd, and the Bears in 1st.
Okay.
And that's me with all Packer hatred even.
Yeah, I hear you. So here's where I'm at here. The Chicago Bears have one of the most dynamic, scary, developed wide receiver rooms in the league. I'm not even going to try to throw shade at the Bears. You know, you have a guy in DJ Moore. Last year he caught 96 balls, 1,364 yards, 8 TDs. Phenomenal season. You're bringing in a guy like Keenan Allen, who, he's, on the wrong side of age in the NFL, but he clearly didn't show that last year with the Chargers. But you also had a dynamic quarterback, throwing him the ball. 108 catches last year, 1,243 yards, 7 TDs. Another amazing season. Rome Odunze could be the most electric wide receiver taken in this draft. We'll see what happens week 1. You want to talk about a guy that can fly down the field. His hands are solid. He's going to be exciting to watch. When you have all 3 of these guys lined up, it is probably one of the most difficult wide receiver rooms that you're going to see this season to be able to defend. The only thing that I will say is the Lions did themselves a solid by, one, staying extremely deep in the DB room and then bringing guys in that can body the bigger wide receivers. Even though Amik Robertson is on the shorter end of the spectrum there for DBs, he actually plays to a much bigger height, and he's able to take on these bigger wide receivers. Carlton Davis has shown that he's been able to pretty much lock up just about any number 1 that he's been thrown up against during his career. His issue is just health. Keenan Allen, again, he's fun to watch. He's been fun to watch. What does he have, like 14 seasons in the NFL or something crazy like that, or 13? I don't remember. Over 10,000 yards in his career. He's got 59 TDs. He's done it every year. The matter of fact, in the last 5 seasons, he's caught more than 100 balls, or 100 balls or more. In the last 8 seasons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In the last 7 seasons, he caught 100 balls or more in 5 of them. So the guy is definitely not slowing down. The only question that I'll have, and this is also a problem, I think, for the Bears, is when you have this many guys that want to eat and want the ball, you're not going to be able to get them the ball all the time. You will have your pick of the litter if you can get the ball off. If Caleb Williams is not under pressure, yeah, he's going to be able to dice up some teams as long as he can get the ball out. But if he's under pressure, which I'm expecting a lot of from the Lions, it doesn't matter who you have in the wide receiver room if you can't get the ball off. So that is a game that I'm expecting, we're just going to have to get after Caleb Williams and get him rattled early. Like, we're probably blitzing on the first down and sending everybody to try to rattle his cage. But speaking just in terms of a wide receiver room and the depth and the quality, the Bears definitely stand out in the NFC North. For the Green Bay Packers, I know you don't like the Packers. I get it. But I think we got to give them a little bit of flowers here. Jaden Reed last season caught almost 800 yards. He almost had 800 yards, 64 receptions, 8 TDs. So just as many as Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. Romeo Doubs, 59 receptions, 674 yards, 8 TDs. So again, just as many as anybody in the Chicago Bears room. The difference, I think, with the Packers is Jordan Love spreads the ball around. A lot of these guys, like Dontavian Wicks, he had 581 yards, 4 TDs. And then Luke Musgrave did not have the greatest season, that was expected, but he still caught 352 yards, 1 TD. And I would say that's below average for a rookie tight end, but I don't expect that to happen again this season. Then you also had Tucker Kraft, 355 yards, 2 TDs. So you got 2 guys that were able to do it, from a tight end perspective. Now they have 3 receivers that really stood out, right? Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks. That's still a room that is pretty solid. Now you're bringing in a couple other guys like Malik Heath and Bo Melton to the mix. They just haven't done much in the NFL yet. And that's what you're going to see on almost any roster. The 4th and 5th guy, or even the 6th guy, if a roster has one, they just don't get involved in the game a whole lot unless there's injuries. So you're really looking at the first 3. And I would say, yeah, the Bears definitely have a better room on paper than the Packers right now. And then looking at the Minnesota Vikings, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, I mean, these are 2 dynamic wide receivers. I mean, Justin, like you said, he's a guy that can go for 200. And he's done it. Now he's got a different quarterback this year. And Sam Darnold has already clicked with Jefferson early. And then Jordan Addison's going to be gone, for the first few weeks of the season. But I think over the course of the season, that's not really going to matter. Jalen Naylor stood out last season. Brandon Powell definitely has the speed. to be dynamic, but let me pull up the Vikings receiver stats from last year. Well, let's just see what we're talking about. In the receiving game, Justin Jefferson, 1,074 yards, only 5 TDs. He also missed 7 games last year. Jordan Addison, 960 yards, 5 TDs. He played in all 17 games. They also had KJ Osborne last year, which I think is a fairly big loss to that roster this year. 540 yards, 3 TDs. Brandon Powell, he kind of did what a 4th or 5th wide receiver does. 324 yards, 1 TD. And then, of course, now you have Jalen Naylor, who's going to be stepping up into a bigger role this year. And Tristan Jackson and Trent Sherfield, I just don't know enough on these guys. I mean, Tristan didn't do a whole lot last year. I mean, really nothing. He got in 7 games. I mean, he only produced 9 yards. He had 4 targets, 2 receptions. So not expecting a whole lot from the bottom end of this roster. So if you look at just the top 3, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Jalen Naylor, yeah, I'd say they're extremely dynamic up front with Justin Jefferson. But behind them, I would comfortably put the Vikings as the 3rd best room overall right now, just based on the depth. But they can be the best room overall with Justin Jefferson because really you only need one guy to go off in a game. But we're talking about depth here, right? We're talking about the room, not a single player. And then you've got the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are kind of hurting right now, in my opinion. As much as I want to say we have the best, I don't think we do. At least on paper, we don't. If Jameson Williams can, do what some of these other receivers have done, like Jordan Addison, if he can have a similar season to Jordan Addison, who, he put up 10 TDs last season, 911 yards. That would be a phenomenal year for Jameson Williams. And if he can do that, and Amon-Ra does Amon-Ra things, and he puts up 13, 14, 1,500 yards this year and maybe another 10 TDs, and I don't think 10 TDs are needed from any player. I think that a collective that the Lions have with a lot of players that can score TDs is what you would rather see. Just like the statement I make about pass rush by committee, it's the same thing here. You want to score by committee. I don't want the Lions to have to be locked into any one certain player to make all the plays. We want to be able to spread it around, play the field. You want to keep the opponent guessing on who's going to get the ball next. But if Jameson Williams can step up and do 808, which is what I'm expecting him to do as a floor this year, and if Amon-Ra can step up and do what he did, as an average over the last couple of seasons, yes, then I think that you would say that the Lions could have the number 1 wide receiver room. But right now on paper, they just don't, because there's not the stats to back up Jameson Williams. There's not the stats really to back up, Tom Kennedy. And Isaiah Williams is an undrafted free agent, so you've got Khalif Raymond, who's always been, the steady Eddie of the group, I guess. But again, it's nothing that really just blows the doors off. So if I were to rank them right now, I hate to say it, on paper, as a room overall, you're going to hate this, but it's the Chicago Bears as a room. Not what they've done, but as a room. Then it's the Lions. And then it's the Vikings, and then it's the Packers. But all of this is going to change. Like, all of this is going to change. I mean, I could put the Packers at number 3, but I think I just made my statement there for the Vikings as to why, I feel like they should be, ahead right now. But Jordan Addison's going to be missing. But I think overall, I think that the Vikings probably have a better room right now. And I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with that. I'm sure a lot of people aren't going to agree that I'm putting the Lions at 2nd. But I need to see more from Jameson Williams before I could say that they have the best room. Okay, you can tear me up now. I just looked up and saw that.
That's all I'm going to say right there.
Well, we need Waymo J-Mo, man. We need him to step up this year. If he steps up, like I said, if he could do Jordan Addison numbers, if he can do the hell, even Jaden Reed numbers from last year, 793 and 8. That's like the floor for me with this guy. When you look at the Bears, I mean, you really don't have anybody that kind of just hovered. It was either boom or bust. You know, you had DJ Moore that went nuts. Cole Kmet had a solid season, but he's not a wide receiver. And then he had Darnell Mooney, 414 for 1. So not a whole lot with the Bears last year. It's a changed room. It's a big time changed room, but on paper, the Bears probably have the number 1 room. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze. Now, how does this change, right? How does this change? If before week 1, right, we find out that Tim Patrick's working out or, you know, Allen Robinson is working out, that's where I think things change big time for this team. Because now we've added some guys to the practice squad. We haven't spoken about practice squad at all. That's where the Lions have the number 1 room. Is one of those 2 guys is going to step up, and that is where we're going to have an opportunity to really be scary, you know, even from a decoy perspective. And I did listen to that interview yesterday at Tim Patrick, and I wholeheartedly agree. That dude, what was the statement that he made? They asked him, you know, last year while you were injured, were you able to do the mental rep thing? And he straight up said, nope. I took care of me. I wanted to make sure that my mental was right. Now I'm not quoting him verbatim here, but he pretty much said that he wanted to take care of him and that he could stay mentally, you know, involved in what he had to do himself to stay prepared. That he didn't really learn the new offense last year because he was more involved in himself. He was being selfish, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's probably a great way to approach it. And then, you know, coming in this season and really diving in deep. And there was another statement that he made that I can't remember the exact question, but the answer was something similar to this. He was just happy to be on the field. Like, he had no worries about anything. He's just happy to be on the field each and every day. That is a Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell guy, someone that just loves football, just wants to play the game. And when you have those guys on your team, the work ethic behind it will always show up. And I can't wait to see, you know, what these guys are able to do once they're ingrained into this offense and surrounded by guys like, you know, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah, that you know, do it to a different level. So I know you guys are probably killing me right now on you know, where I'm putting this, but it's just on paper. You know, I really think that the Lions are going to end up with the number 1 room. I really do. I want to believe that. I think they'll get there. But we've got to see it, right? We need a couple of weeks. We need a couple of weeks to see what Jameson's really going to do. And it's going to be a great test, these first few games that Jameson's going to have. And whoever steps up out of the practice squad. So any thoughts on that now? Should I run and hide?
Yeah. Well, like I've been saying, I'm a Tim Patrick fan. I like this kid. I think he's going to do great things for the Lions. And I don't think he's going to come in and get 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. No, I think between him and JMO, they are going to make up for what we lost with Josh Reynolds. And that's all we need. We're a top 3 offense in the entire NFL. And with a better running back room, improved offensive line play, listen, this could be a top 1 or 2 offense in the entire NFL. And we have to wait and see what our roster is even going to be here. We still don't know what that last spot. So John Kaminsky, is he going to get put on IR today? And are we going to bring somebody in? Who are we bringing in today? We don't know yet. As of now, there's nothing done on that. And when you look at our practice squad,
well, I think you'll have a lateral move there. I think that you're going to have a practice squad elevation.
Yeah, but then
yeah.
Then you bring somebody back from to your practice squad. And right now, there's kind of a little snafu with the practice squad, because they can only have so many people with accrued years on the practice squad. So it was reported yesterday that DPJ was signed back to the practice squad. He is not yet. And it's because you can only have, let's see, the NFL practice squad has certain limitation to who is eligible to make the squad. Most notably, of the 16 players on the squad, only 6 of them can have 3 or more accrued seasons.
Right.
As it stands, the Lions are already at the maximum amount. The following players are considered having accrued at least 3 NFL seasons, and that's Allen Robinson, Tim Patrick, Jamarco Jones, Pat Connor, Kyle Pecco, and CJ Moore. So until those moves are made, they can't get somebody else, DPJ, on the practice squad.
Yeah, but the good news is these guys don't have to sign with any team. They can sign wherever they want. They don't have to play. They can sit on the sidelines and just say, yeah, I'm only playing for the Lions this year. They'll sign me when they sign me. So I'm not too worried about that. I didn't even catch that. When I did my Twitter 53 in practice squad, I was putting the years of eligibility behind them to kind of, make that 6 and 10 designation. So it's interesting that they're over on their limit at this point, but you're going to have a lateral move as soon as Kaminsky is moved to IR or whatever the move is going to be, then someone will be elevated and then all of that will be figured out.
Yeah.
But, shout out to Brad Holmes for bending the rules just enough, finding the loophole. I kept hearing that a lot yesterday for another situation. But anyway, let's move on to the tight end room. I think that the Lions have this is another Chicago Bears room, in my opinion, that when you look at the names, it's like, wow, really? On paper, again, it's incredible. So run away with it. Start with the Bears.
God, let's see. I got to get back over there. Let's see. So
you got Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, Mercedes Lewis.
All right. Yeah, I was on the Vikings here. So let's see.
No, Gerald Everett was taken out last year by Kirby Joseph, right?
I don't think he was.
I thought he was.
Let's see. Tight ends: Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, and Mercedes Lewis. Mercedes Lewis is like 400 years old. The other two, competent. They don't scare me, but they're decent and competent tight ends.
Is that what you got?
Yeah, that's it for me for the Bears. Doesn't excite me. Mercedes Lewis, I mean, he played with Green Bay and a couple other teams. Who did he play with? The Saints, and never did anything super special. He may even had a small stint with the Lions, didn't he?
Who's that?
Mercedes Lewis?
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I don't think he did. Matter of fact, no, I know he did.
He's a big-bodied tight end, but he's 100 years old.
Man, he just gained 50 years.
Yeah, I know. The other two, decent, competent wide receiver or tight ends. Can't talk today.
All right. Dare I ask about the Green Bay Packers? Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, and Ben Sims.
Listen, so I'm going to say this about the Green Bay tight ends. The Green Bay fans talk about this Musgrave kid like he was better than our tight end that we took in the first round.
Yeah. Sam Laporta?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, coming out of the draft, Luke Musgrave was rated higher than Sam.
Yeah. But they still talk like he has more upside and that he is going to be better than Sam Laporta. So a big FU to the Packer fans. Suck it. He is not that good. I have not seen anything out of this Musgrave kid to tell me that he's going to be fantastic. Tucker Kraft, and Ben Sims, never heard of him. So,
all right, Vikings.
So Vikings have a unique situation. They have a very competent, very good tight end. And that is Mr. Hawkinson. But there's a problem with Mr. Hawkinson. He is going to be on the pup for at least the first 4 weeks, and his injury happened in week 12, I believe, last year. It was right towards the end of the season. And
that's when Kirby Joseph took him out too, right?
Yes, Kirby Joseph did take him out. Not intentionally, but the hit is the hit. It's legal. There was no flag. There was nothing done about it, so it's not a dirty hit. And I'm sorry it happened. But Hawkinson is going to be out for a little while.
It'll take him a little bit to bounce back too. So it'll take him a few games to get rolling. But remember, the exercise is on paper for the season. Then you got your Detroit Lions. So you got Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, and Parker Hess.
Well, who did Minnesota have other than Hawk? Let's see here.
Josh Oliver, Johnny Munt, and Nick Muse.
Yeah, so Munt, he's gotten us a few times on a few plays over the middle, because that's the one thing the Lions defense just could not defend was the tight end over the middle. So I think without Hawk, you're looking at a very subpar tight end room for the Minnesota Vikings. With him on there, much, much better. You're talking about a Pro Bowler versus guys that you really don't know who they are.
Hey, we got a shout out here. DLR Van Halen with a $10 super chat. He says, shout out to my son, Blake. Oh, you're gonna make me say this name. Shazowski. Did I get it right? Shazowski, who ran in a TD in a 19-0 victory for the JV Rochester Falcons over the Fraser Ramblers last night. Blake Shazowski, if I'm pronouncing your name right or wrong, I apologize. Huge shout out to you, man. Way to get it done and get that 19-0 victory last night. So that was must have been opening night for high school football. At least I would assume that it is so early in the season now. But that's great, man. Congratulations to your son. That's awesome. We should be giving you the $10 super chat, not you giving us the $10 super chat. So anyway, Lions. I mean, we know who the Lions are. So where are you going to rank the tight end groups across the board?
Number 1, Detroit Lions by far. Listen, Brock Wright's been with us for years now. Sam Fran tried to take him away. Didn't work. Lions outbid him. So now we have Parker Hess in there with him. Sam Laporta. These guys rock. They're solid. And Sam Laporta is an absolute rock star at the tight end position. So I'm going to do Lions number 1. I will do the Chicago Bears at number 2. The Vikings and only because Hawkinson is hurt. The Vikings at number 3. And then the lowly Green Bay Packers at number 4. That's my biased Detroit Lion fan opinion right there.
One more time. Lions 1.
Yes.
Who was 2?
Let's see. The Chicago Bears.
And the Vikings were 3?
For 3, but they would be 2 if Hawk was not hurt.
Okay.
And then number 4 is the Green Bay Packers.
Okay. All right. So here's what I've got for you guys. Chicago Bears. I mean, yeah, we know that Cole Kmet is pretty solid. He's been solid. Last year he put up 719 yards, 6 TDs, played in all 17 games. Look, this guy is a weapon for Caleb Williams. He's someone that's going to be able to bail out Caleb Williams this season. And adding a perennial guy like Gerald Everett to this team now, albeit Gerald Everett hasn't. He's been consistent. Let's put it that way. He's been a consistent tight end in the NFL. Over the last several seasons, he's averaging probably 50 balls a year. He's in the neighborhood of 450 yards a season and about 4 touchdowns a season. So that's a pretty solid number 2 tight end in this league. Cole Kmet, again, when you look at what he's been able to do over the last many seasons, let me pull up his stats one more time. Make sure I get it right. 2022, he had 544 for 7 TDs. 2021, a bunch of yards, 612, 60 receptions, no TDs. 2020 rookie season, 243 for 2 TDs. I think what you're seeing out of Cole is that third season, right? How Brad Holmes always says, don't judge my guys until the third season, or, don't reevaluate my guys till the third season. That's when Cole Kmet started to take off. Now he's going to have a different quarterback throwing him the ball this season. He doesn't have the benefit of a Justin Fields, who took a lot of pressure away from the tight end position just because Justin Fields was so elusive and had to be accounted for running off, the backside of the tackles, or even, the tight end in the outside, zone schemes. So I would say this: Cole Kmet could be right now the number 2 tight end in the North. And yes, I would put him above Hockenson. Hawkinson's on the decline. And even if he was healthy right now, based on what Hawkinson's been able to do over the last couple of seasons, I would say that he's starting to slow or regress a little bit. He's still a phenomenal tight end, but he also is going to have Sam Darnold this year. And that's a new relationship, and he's not able to practice or play right now. I'm not expecting anything really out of Hockenson this year. I think it's going to be his worst season as a professional athlete by default, because he's battling injury. It's going to take him a little bit to get back, not really able to practice a whole lot and develop that relationship with Sam Darnold. I think is going to impact that relationship. Mercedes Lewis, you're right about one thing. The dude is 1,000 years old. He's had about 18 seasons or something like that in the NFL. Over the course of his career, I thought I had his information up. Maybe I don't anymore.
I can't believe they wouldn't have went with somebody younger.
Well, I think that what they were looking for to be, and this is just my guess, is you're looking for a veteran, that can come in to help Caleb Williams, right? Number one, kind of be that veteran mentor, teach him, a few of the things that he knows about playing in this league, and especially the tight end position. Now, Mercedes really has never bounced off the page with stats. He's just been somewhat of a consistent tight end, at least the first 10 or 11 seasons in the NFL. Now, the last 5-6 seasons, he's done nothing. So I think he's just a veteran presence, to be honest with you.
I just remember him sneaking out into the corner of the end zone all by himself, catching a touchdown pass from Sharon Rodgers. That's all I remember.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was his deal, and so Rodgers obviously, accentuated the tight end position. He loves the tight end position. He utilizes it often. And Mercedes Lewis did, he didn't have to get a bunch of yards. He just had to show up at the right time. Now, again, Mercedes never had a bunch of TDs. I think the most TDs he had in one season was 10. And that was in 2010. So you're talking 14 years, 14 seasons removed from him being dynamic in this league at all. So I'm not worried about Mercedes Lewis. But I think the 1-2 punch here with Kmet and Gerald Everett is going to be a fairly decent tight end room. On the Packers side of things here, you got Luke Musgrave. I'm not discounting Luke Musgrave at all. I had Sam Laporta as the best tight end coming out of last year's draft. That's why prior to the draft, I said that the Lions would pick up Sam Laporta, and they did. I truly expected Sam Laporta to go off the board earlier, and he didn't. But Luke Musgrave, he's going to be a benefactor of having a second season and working with Caleb Williams. Now, last season was not great for him. He battled some injury. He only played in 11 games. Caught 34 balls, 352 yards, and 1 TD. But you cannot deny the skill level of Luke Musgrave and what he presents to this Packers team for options. So I'm not going to discount him. But behind him, Tucker Kraft and Ben Sims. Tucker, again, last season, he kind of had to fill in for what Luke was not able to do. Didn't have a phenomenal season, but it was about average, I guess, for a tight end in the NFL. 31 balls on 40 targets, so he's catching more than 75%. 11.5 yards, average per catch. 355 yards on the season, 2 TDs. He wasn't utilized enough. When you combine Musgrave and his stats, they're right around 800 yards on the season. So I do believe that the Packers are going to utilize the tight end a little bit more this year, especially given the fact that, they're going to be hoping that Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Jaden Reed are able to take away some of the pressure from the tight end and allow them to do a little bit more over the middle, which is what I'm expecting out of the Packers this year. It's just not going to go well against the Lions, in my opinion. As far as the Vikings go, they definitely have the worst of the worst tight end room right now, partly because Hawkinson is injured. But even if he wasn't, I would still probably put, I know this is a bad take, but I would probably put on paper Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett above the Vikings, even if Hawkinson was healthy. I just see Hawkinson on a decline. I do. It's just what I see. I could be wrong. I've been wrong many times before, and that's okay. The Lions, look, we know who the Lions are. They have a very deep tight end room. They just added probably one of the best blocking tight ends with Parker Hess, a guy that is multiple. He's dynamic. I think it was Mike P that sent a message. Was it this morning, Mike P? Correct me if I'm wrong, that Hess could play some linebacker for us. Now, I thought that he was a defensive end at one point. So you got a guy that's not afraid to hit, right? You got a guy that's not afraid to mix it up. And that's why Parker Hess makes such a great blocker. And that is extremely needed in the run game. Having two giant men like Brock Wright and Hess, in a big scheme, right? With your running back, I mean, they're going to be able to crash the outside zone all day, or sink inside on a pole and pull the tight end, crash, behind the guard and send Montgomery through the largest hole you're ever going to see this season. I promise you. We might even see 3 tight ends in some of these schemes this year. And I would not be surprised one bit when we get into a big jumbo set, that these guys are they're going to eat and they're going to provide, some big holes for our running backs to get through. So I really like what the Lions did here. Brock Wright, you cannot discount his catchability. He's seems to always catch the ball when it's thrown his way. I don't want to say clunky. He's not really clunky, but he's not as smooth as some of the other tight ends. He's not known for being a dynamic pass catcher. He's still young. He's still a young tight end in this league. He's going to have a growth period this year, I believe. He's going to be healthy. He's got Sam Laporta to take some pressure away, and he's got 3 dynamic receivers that we're hoping are going to step up this year and take some pressure away. So you can't discount what the Lions room is going to do. The Lions have the number 1 tight end room in this NFC North. There is no doubt about it. And you could just do that with Sam Laporta alone. But Brock Wright is Brock Wright, and I think that he's going to provide a lot more to this team this season. I think we're going to see a lot more. The Lions wouldn't have invested in him if they didn't believe that.
Yep.
I do believe the Chicago Bears have the number 2 tight end room right now. Again, on paper, Cole Kmet, steady Eddie, man. Gerald Everett, he can be dynamic at times. Mercedes Lewis, I don't expect anything out of the guy. Green Bay Packers, Luke is probably going to have a much better season than he did last year. Tucker Kraft, he has his moments, but he's not consistent. So you really only have one guy, for the Packers offense right now in that tight end room that is going to do anything. And there is nobody, in my opinion, in the Green Bay room that is going to do much. I mean, I could say the same thing about Johnny Munt as I do for Tucker Kraft. I could say the same thing about Josh Oliver. Josh Oliver last season in Minnesota, he put up 213 yards. The season before that with Baltimore, 149. The season before that, 66. The season before that, 15. He's a nobody. It doesn't mean that he can't have success, but right now, I don't see it. So Vikings are number 4. Packers are number 3. Bears are number 2. Your Detroit Lions are number 1. It is 9:38. I knew this was going to take forever. So let's quickly get through the next. I don't want to dismiss a lot of these guys, but offensive line.
1 second.
Yep.
Okay. So Trey said a little bit about something, and I just got word. DPJ has officially been added to the practice squad. CJ Moore was released off the unit, and John Comiskey was moved to IR. The Lions have 1 open spot on both the main roster and their practice squad temporarily, and that's from Justin Rogers. right now.
So that probably means, and I think Braylon Dennis just sent us the same update. This is weird. It's just weird that we're holding spots open. Yeah. I have not seen the Lions do this in any of the last 3 seasons prior to this year. That you're holding a spot open. Now, if we think about this logistically, that means that they're probably going to elevate a receiver, potentially, right? Tim Patrick or Allen Robinson, and they're probably maybe going to elevate a defensive tackle, which I would assume is going to be Pecco, depending on what happens with DJ Reader. That's the only thing that I can think of right now. Or third thing, who are we trading for? Is there a trade coming?
Yeah, there might be a trade. And that's something we have not yet seen from Brad Holmes. And we might be saying goodbye to a 2nd round pick in a future year. It just might happen. And we just had one of the coolest things somebody ever put on there. If you haven't hit the like button yet, you might be a lump of a turd.
Yeah, he's using your phrase this morning. I'll let that one fly. I don't know how to undo it, though.
I hit show, but said somebody else already handled it. So that's
I mean, it's all right. It's fine. It's not that big of a deal. Bro, I'm okay with that one.
I was trying to keep it clean. Come on, man.
Oh, yeah. You,
I got to think of some new superlatives.
Yeah, there you go. So Richard Blakely says, I think they're going to pick up a free agent. Hey, man, I mean, you got to read the tea leaves, right? You've got 2 open spots. So I think that there's 2 options, maybe 3. You got lateral practice squad to elevation for Kaminsky. That could be a Kyle Pecco or somebody that they need to bring up, depending on what goes on with DJ Reader, right? Or are they waiting to see what's going to happen over the next week with practice before they elevate Tim Patrick or, Allen Robinson for week 1? Or who are the Lions getting in bed with today and making a trade with? We'll see. 5 more likes to get to 100. We can do it. We've only got 19 minutes or so left on the show this morning. Let's talk offensive line. Chicago Bears, Braxton Jones, Tevin Jenkins, Darnell Wright, Ryan Bates, Coleman Shelton, Nate Davis, Kyron Matt Pryor, Bill Murray, not the comedian, Doug Kramer Jr. Green Bay Packers, you have Rasheed Walker, Elgden Jenkins, Josh Myers, Sean Ryan, Zach Tom, Jordan Morgan, Andre Dillard, Jacob Monk, Kadeem Telfort, Travis Glover. And the Minnesota Vikings, you have Christian Darrisaw, Blake Brandel, Garrett Bradbury, Ed Ingram, Brian O'Neill, David Quisenberry, Walter Roos, Dan Feeney, Michael Juergens. Then, of course, we have our Detroit Lions, Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker, Graham Glasgow, Frank Ragnow, Kevin Zietler, Giovanni Manu, Colby Sorsdahl, Michael Neese, and who am I forgetting? I try to do that by memory. I'm missing somebody.
Giovanni?
I said Gio. Coyote. Coyote, Iwasaka, and Dan Skipper. I don't know how I missed Skipper. I got to get a Skipper jersey this year. Have to support the guy. Look, I don't think that this is a secret. Your Lions are number 1. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They will have the best offensive line in the league. Our depth is a little suspect. Yes, it is. But your front 6, I think, are as solid as you're going to find in the NFL anywhere, any given season. It just doesn't get any better than I think our front 6. The top 6 guys on this roster. And look, Coyote is he's working his way into becoming a little bit better of a backup. And I think that, throughout the seasons, he's gaining more experience. All right. His body is getting, more trim and in shape every year that goes by. And I think that he's getting better. I've kind of always been on the outs with Coyote, but, last year, what he did in the NFC Championship game, You can't deny that. He was asked to step up. He stepped up and he played well. So I'm glad to see that he's back. I want to see him, continue his progression. Where are you going to rank these guys? I know that this is a tough portion of any team to kind of rank this early. But if we were to go off of, last year's rankings, so
to me, this is pretty much cut and dry. It's pretty easy.
Let me guess. The Packers are number 4.
No. No, actually, the Bears are number 4.
Okay.
Lions, Vikings, Packers, Bears.
Okay. So the Bears offensive line, as it got healthy throughout last year, they were one of the top units in the NFL towards the second half of the season. That I can't deny. Who did they lose, though? I guess is the bigger question. I don't even know who they really lost, but Braxton Jones was on the team. Darnell Wright was on the team.
5 more memberships.
Oh, goodness. Look at that, Trace. Knocking it out the park. Another super shout out to Trace. Another 5 members gifted. We must have hit 100 likes today. All right. Good job, everybody. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And by the way, the memberships are completely random, too. I learned this morning from Trace, that when memberships are gifted, they are gifted to completely random people that are in the live stream. So just by showing up in the live stream, if someone decides to gift memberships, you could be, a lucky winner of a membership. So, they're not picking and choosing who get them. It's just random. YouTube just kind of selects them, I guess. Which remind me, after the show, I gotta ask a question on that too. But so anyway, the Bears last year, they were one of the better units in the league towards the second half of the season. Will that remain? I'm not sure. Minnesota Vikings, Christian Darrisaw, he wasn't really able to replicate his breakout season of 2022, but he still finished 2023 as the 3rd highest graded offensive tackle in pass pro.
Yep.
And then the interior trio of Risner, Bradbury, and Ingram, they were kind of average, right? Average at best. And they still have all those guys. So they still have Bradbury, they still have Ingram, and I think Risner might be the only one that is gone. Yeah, Risner is gone. So they still have 2 out of the 3 interior guys that were just, whatever. And then you have, I already talked about the Packers, or no, I didn't talk about the Packers yet, did I? No, I didn't. The Green Bay Packers, obviously Rasheed Walker was a 2022 7th round pick, appears to be David Bakhtiari's successor at left tackle. And while he went through some growing pains in 23, he did produce a 66.3 PFF overall grade. He ranked 44th among offensive tackles. That's incredible for a 7th rounder. On the other side of the line, though, Zach Tom, who is still on this roster, built a pretty strong rookie campaign and was even better in 2023. The Packers lost John Runyon in free agency, but Sean Ryan was rotating with Runyon at right guard towards the end of the season, bringing some experience to that position. So here's my rankings. I think it's somewhat straightforward. Lions are number 1. No question about it. Bears, unfortunately, are number 2 to start the season until I see something different. The Green Bay Packers, right now, I'm going to put it number 3, and your Vikings at number 4. Now, all of this could change in a heartbeat, but I think the Packers got better than worse. They added Jordan Morgan, which I think is going to be a phenomenal piece to their team. And I can't remember if the Bears even added an offensive line. I don't think they did add an offensive lineman this year in the draft, right? I don't think they did.
No.
So, they didn't really do anything to help out Caleb there. But just based off of last year's performance towards the end of the season, they were a better group than what they started with. So I'll go Lions, Bears, Packers, Vikings. Now let's move on to defense. Edge rusher. Roger Chappa says, great job, everyone in the chat this morning. Our streak has been kept alive. Now 8 Rise and Grind shows in a row with over 100 chat likes. We had over 200 the other night too. But yeah, great job. You guys are awesome. This channel is going to blow up this year, and it's going to be intense in the chat. And you saw a glimpse of it the other night. We had over 700 people in the show, and the chat was just insane. And that's where it's really difficult for myself to pay attention to the chat. And that's why moderators are so important. So again, I can't thank you guys enough for all of the hard work that you do. It's greatly appreciated. So Edge Rusher, let's talk about the Chicago Bears. What you got?
Oh, it's so funny. In the chat, Giovanni Capolero put, they got Caleb a punter, LOL.
Yeah, that poor guy might be running around for his life this year against the Lions.
He's from Australia, and he doesn't want like an Australian nickname. So he's mad when anybody calls him like, what were they calling him? Crocodile Dundee or whatever, or Crocodile Punter. He's like, don't be calling me that.
Well, you know what sign I'm going to be holding up.
Yeah.
All right. So Edge Rusher for the Chicago Bears. This is a room that is quite scary at times. Montez Sweat, DeMarcus Walker, Austin Booker, who you guys know, I've been saying it. I think Austin Booker was a mistake. Darrell Taylor, Danielle Hardy, and Dominique Robinson. They kept 6. Green Bay Packers. On the defensive end, they kept Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary. He's Rashawn Gary. Kingsley Enagbare, Lucas Van Ness, solid. Brenton Cox Jr., and Aaron Mosby. So Aaron Mosby, the other day when I was posted on Twitter about James Houston's fastest sack of the preseason, Mosby at the same exact time posted the fastest sack of the preseason. Both of them, James Houston and Mosby. So Mosby made the roster this year. Pretty incredible. And I think that sack is probably what got him in. Defensive line for your Minnesota Vikings. If you're a Vikings fan, they brought in, I know they have a funny defense, so I gotta try to whittle it down here. I guess we could go outside linebackers. I'm probably gonna have to go outside linebackers. So Jonathan Greenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Patrick Jones, and then they selected Dallas Turner, and then Jihad Ward. Also on the defensive line, Jonathan Bullard, Harrison Phillips, Jerry Tillery, Levi Rodriguez, Jalen Redmond, and Taki Taimani. I'm kind of mentioning both of those because, again, the Vikings run this weird defense. It's kind of hard to differentiate between who's an end and who's not. So going with the outside linebackers would be Jonathan Greenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Dallas Turner, Jihad Ward, Pat Jones. We'll throw Blake Cashman in there, Ivan Pace Jr., Kamu Grugier-Hill, and Brian Asamoah. This is a extremely fierce defensive front and defensive end, outside linebacker, inside. I mean, they've done it all this offseason. And then you got your Detroit Lions, which obviously things are still kind of working themselves out with this roster. But defensive edge, Marcus Davenport, Josh Pascal, Isaac Ukwu, John Kaminsky's on IR, and Aiden Hutchinson, James Houston, and Mitchell Agudi. So not sure who's going to be on the active roster come game time. But let's just say Aiden Hutchinson, Marcus Davenport, Josh Pascal, James Houston, and Isaac Ukwu, or Makai Wingo even. He's an inside-outside guy. Or even Mitchell Agudi from time to time. This is a very, very talented and deep defensive edge group.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts?
Well, the Vikings have gotten very scary. The Bears, they were already very scary. I think the Packers are the only team that haven't really done anything to address this situation on the defensive line. So I'm going to put the Packers in 4th. I'm going to put the Lions in third, and I'm only putting them in third until they prove me wrong. And then in second, I'm going to have the Vikings, and number one, I'm going to have the Bears.
One more time.
So Packers in fourth, Lions in third, Vikings in a very close second, and then the Bears in first. So, Broski, there you go. You got me to say the Bears are first in something.
You just said that the Bears are above the Lions' defensive line?
Yes, until the defensive line of the Lions can gel and prove me wrong, because we have not seen anything out of Davenport yet. We don't know if Houston is going to be the player he was. He's shown a flash now. Let's see it in the games. So I hope they prove me wrong. I hope the Lions have the best defensive line in the NFL. But until we see it, I just can't put them in that position.
Well, interesting.
You agree with me
you guys can, you are free to light Eric up right now. Yeah, look, the Bears are a little banged up. They're facing some issues on the line right now. I mean, Montez Sweat, yeah, he's a solid player. I think, like I said, Austin Booker, I feel like that was a mistake. Do I feel like, they're going to have another strong output in 2024? Probably. They were, I think, rated the best run defense last season, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Lions were number 2. Yeah, the Bears defense was nasty.
Okay. Let me get in here and see if I can find some rankings real quick. And that's not going to help me. Yeah, all the rankings seem to be a little old right now. And it's probably going to take a few days before they get updated. But that's kind of why we're doing this. So let me start with the Green Bay Packers here for a moment. Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary, solid. Lucas Van Ness, solid. You got a few guys that can get to the quarterback. We don't know enough about Aaron Mosby yet, but what he flashed in the preseason was pretty good. I think that the Packers are going to build off of 2023. They completely thrashed us on Thanksgiving Day. Right. Was that Thanksgiving Day last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. They completely thrashed our offensive line. It was Thanksgiving Day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it was.
So sick of hearing about that game. They beat us by 7. We beat them by 14 at their place. Okay. So they didn't.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with how their defensive line played.
Yeah, I know.
Their defensive line completely thrashed our offensive line that whole game. I've never seen Frank Ragnow and Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker have as much trouble last season against the defensive line than they did that game. That they figured something out, and hopefully it doesn't happen again. But I feel like the Packers are going to build off of that, and I'm going to put them at number 3. The Vikings, I quite honestly feel, made the biggest moves of the offseason. Mm-hmm. And even though they haven't done anything as a group yet, this is an on-paper evaluation. Jonathan Greenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Dallas Turner, Jihad Ward. Oh my. Like, that is going to be a very intense defensive front. Now, I get it. Some of these guys are outside linebackers, but then you've got Blake Cashman and Ivan Pace Jr., who was one of the best last year. They are stacked. Brian Asamoah, you can't forget about him. And we're not even getting into the rest of the guys, right? But that is a very stacked defense up front when you look at a front 7 or front 8 that they kind of run that weird defense. I'm going to put the Vikings at number 2. And I'm going to put the Packers at number 4. Sorry, I'm not going to put them at 3. I'm going to put them at 4. I'm going to put the Chicago Bears at number 3. And it's simply because on paper, the Vikings are way better. Packers, not so much. But Chicago still had a phenomenal run defense last year. I just don't see where they really got better. If they are banking on Austin Booker, they banked wrong. Austin Booker is not going to be that guy, but who is going to be that guy? Dallas Turner is going to be that guy. 1,000%. That guy is going to cause a lot of problems in the NFL. But your Detroit Lions, I cannot move them off the number one spot right now. I just can't. A top-rated defensive, run defense team last year that just got exponentially better by bringing in Marcus Davenport and Mekhi Wingo and DJ Reader. And even though we're not just talking about, I know we're talking about the ends position, but we could talk about, defensive line as a whole here. You've got Aiden Hutchinson, who is, your pressure master, right? He gets a ton of pressure. Now you're lining him up next to or adjacent of DJ Reader and Lee McNeil. Lee McNeil was a top 10 defensive tackle for the majority of the season last year until he was injured. There is no reason why Aiden Hutchinson's not going to get freed up way more than what he was last year. He's probably going to get held more this year because they're not going to be able to chip. They're not going to be able to combo block. They're definitely not going to be able to double team Aiden Hutchinson and DJ Reader and Lee McNeil and Marcus Davenport at the same time. You just can't do it. So there is no reason in the world that I can move the Detroit Lions off the number one spot, especially behind the Bears. I do believe that the Vikings are going to have the second best defensive front this year. That may be their lone bright spot outside of their wide receiver room this year. Doesn't mean that the Vikings are going to win a ton of games, but I think what you're going to see from a stats perspective, I think it's going to be kind of alarming, to be honest with you. I think Dallas Turner is going to be an extremely fun guy to watch from afar. I just hope that those two games that we play, each year don't come back to bite us. But there you go. Detroit Lions number 1, Vikings number 2, Bears number 3, Packers number 4, and that'll be for the entire defensive line. So I'm going to include, everybody in there, right? Their defensive front, their down linemen, their defensive edge, their outside, inside linebackers. I'll include them all in that ranking. Because I think it does take everybody, quite honestly, to work together. And now if you were to go edge to edge, like if we were just going to compare edge to edge, you tell me who's better than Aiden Hutchinson in the NFC North. Anybody? Mm-hmm. Nobody. If Marcus Davenport can play like he did in 2021, 2022, who's going to be better than him? Montez Sweat. All right. I think Montez Sweat's got him beat. DJ Reader and Lee McNeil. Is there any defensive tackles that are better than what the two of them can do together? I don't know. I mean, Rashawn Gary's pretty solid. Who else? Gervon Dexter from the Bears, he's got a lot to work for. Zach Pickens and Andrew Billings, I mean, they're okay. And I guess if you look at the other linebacker positions that also kind of round out your outside guys, the Bears have Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, Jack Sanborn, Noah Sewell, and then Amin O. The Bears could be a number 2, but I think that the Vikings are going to wrap that up. Let's talk about linebackers now, just linebackers.
Yep.
Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, Jack Sanborn, Noah Sewell, Amon O for the Bears. Green Bay Packers. You've got inside linebackers, Quay Walker, Isaiah McDuffie, Eric Wilson, Edrin Cooper, big time move, and then Tyron Hopper, another big time move for the Packers during the draft. And your Vikings, Blake Cashman, Ivan Pace Jr., Kamu Grugier-Hill, Brian Asamoah, and Jonathan Greenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Pat Jones, Dallas Turner, Jahan Ward. Combo, right? I mean, they're outside linebackers, they're edge rushers or pass rushers, inside linebackers. Again, it's just because of the style of defense that they play. Detroit Lions, Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes, Ben Nyman, Alex Anzalone, Malcolm Rodriguez, Jalen Reeves-Maybin. Where do you have these guys stacked up for the season?
I'm going to say Vikings 1, Bears 2, Lions 3, Packers 4. Get my Packers hatred back in there. I think that the Lions are going to have a big step forward from Jack Campbell this year. I think the Packers are going to have a big step backwards from Quay Walker this year. I think the guys that the Vikings have brought in is going to be a big step forward this year. And the Bears have had good linebacker play for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot. And thanks for someone that just mentioned that, Peter, like Kenny Clark. I don't know why I skipped over this line for the Packers. The Kenny Clark and the Carl Brooks, TJ Slayton, Devonta Wyatt, Colby Wooden. That's a pretty stout defensive front. I mean, that's the whole reason why the Lions got thrashed in that game was Kenny Clark. But Kenny Clark and Rashawn Gary, and Carl Brooks, who I wanted the Lions to pick up Carl Brooks. You're going to see, a lot from those guys this year that is going to help out this linebacker group. But give me your rankings one more time.
Oh, what did I just say? Packers in last place. Vikings, Bears in second, Lions in first. No, I had that different. No, I had Bears first, Vikings second, Lions third, Packers last.
Okay. On paper, I think the Vikings have the best linebacker group. On paper. I think the Green Bay Packers, on paper, again, with the two rookies that we don't know, Quay Walker he's a mixed bag. I would say that the Packers probably have the third best group. So Vikings number 1, Packers in 3. So where does that put your Lions and your Bears? I do not want to put the Lions in third place, but I can't put them in first either. I think that the Bears, quite honestly, I got to put them in last place. Because I think that the Lions just got really good. And I'm not doing this just because I'm a Lions fan, but I think Jack Campbell takes a huge step forward. Alex Anzalone has been one of the best linebackers in the league now for the past few seasons. Derek Barnes, not only is a phenomenal special teams player along with Jalen Reeves-Maybin, but we saw a big step up from his outside linebacker play. The addition of Ben Nyman, I think, kind of helps swing some of this because you're bringing in all that experience. But with your top 3 on the field at any given time, Derek Barnes, Jack Campbell, Alex Anzalone, I'm gonna have to change this. I'm gonna put the Vikings at number 1, the Lions at number 2, the Bears at number 3, the Packers at number 4. That's where I'm at. Lions at 2, Vikings at 1. Did I just say that right? The Lions at 2, the Vikings at 1, the Bears at 3, the Packers at 4.
I might swap the 2 and 3 there.
So that's where I'm at on that.
Yeah.
All right, who's next here? Cornerback room, and that's it. The DB room overall. Specialist, I'm not too worried about. Clearly, the Lions have potentially the best kicker. We know that we have the best punter. So interesting.
Long snapper.
Long snapper. Weird. All right, quarterbacks, Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, Tyreek Stevenson, Terrell Smith, Josh Blackwell, Jalen Jones, including their safeties for the Chicago Bears, adding Kevin Byard, Jaquan Brisker is back, Jonathan Owens, Elijah Hicks. It's a pretty solid room. One of the better rooms in the league. Have they struggled this preseason? I don't know. It's up for debate. Cornerbacks for your Green Bay Packers, Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes, Keeson Nixon, Carrington Valentine, and Corey Ballantyne. Safeties, they brought in Xavier McKinney, and Javon Bullard is back. Evan Williams, Zane Anderson, and Kitten Oladapo from the draft. Your Minnesota Vikings, Stephon Gilmore, Byron Murphy, Shaq Griffin, Akalib Evans, Fabian Moreau, Dwight McLaughlin, who I was really high on Dwight McLaughlin. I thought that this would have been a phenomenal pick for the Lions later in the draft, but they decided to go 1-2 bang bang and bring in 2 high value prospects. Safeties, they've got Harrison Smith, Cameron Bynum, they brought in this season. Josh Metellus, Theo Jackson, and Jay Ward. And then you got your Detroit Lions. Carlton Davis, Meek Robertson, Terrion Arnold, Ennis Rakestraw, Kendall Vildor, Emmanuel Mosley on IR, Khalil Dorsey.
Man, I got to go.
Oh, it's after 10. We'll see you.
After 10, I don't have a worker today. My shop's not open. I got to go.
All right, we'll see you. Let me rotate to another screen here. All right. And we'll turn this off. So where was I here? With your Lions DB room. We made huge improvements. Huge improvements. Could have the best overall DB room on paper. Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, Brandon Joseph, new addition, Lauren Strickland this year. CG Moore that we just learned was bounced down for the moment. Could be back. Should be back. And then Ifeatu Melifonwu, we just don't know, what we don't know right now with him. But with the guys that are healthy and the guys that have been added to this team, yeah, I mean, you could make an argument for the Lions to have the best DB room on paper. But I don't think that I can do that just yet because the Chicago Bears last season had one of the better DB rooms in the league. Matter of fact, let's look up 2023 cornerback rankings. And this was as of July 2nd. They had the Packers as number 8. The Lions at number 11. And what's nuts is the Bears are all the way down at 19. And the Vikings are at 27. I can't say that PFF is wrong here. I'm not so sure that the Green Bay Packers would be the number 1. I'm really not so sure with that. I mean, I think that with what the Vikings did in this offseason, you could make an argument for them being at number 2 for sure. Maybe number 3, but I can't go with my bias here. I think that the Lions could have the number 1 overall, but I'm going to put them at number 2 for now. And I guess I'm going to have to agree with PFF here that the recent free agency signing of Xavier McKinney and with Jair Alexander on this squad still, and if they're fully healthy, I mean, the two of them combined can cause some problems in the league. But they also added Javon Bullard through the draft, and it's really changed that room. You know what? That's a lie. That's a complete lie. Look, your Lions have the number 1 room. I can't deny it. I'm sorry. I just can't. They've got too much going on here. They're too deep, too stacked. And we've seen it, right? I mean, if the preseason tells us anything, I mean, I'll just forget the paper for a moment. Let's just throw the paper in the trash. Because what I saw this preseason, from just the number 2s alone, making incredible plays. I mean, watching Ennis Rakestraw work, that was a thing of beauty, watching him work. Amik Robertson is aggressive as he was and making plays. I mean, I only seen the Lions get burned maybe on 2 or 3 plays throughout the entire preseason. And I think that's pretty solid work for a group that, hasn't had a whole lot of time to work together in a game situation. So I got to do it. Your Lions on paper really do have, in my opinion, the number 1 squad. If we throw the paper in the trash and we look at what the preseason showed us from a developmental perspective, I think the Lions are more developed than some of these other teams. I do believe that the Chicago Bears are still going to be tough, with Jalen Johnson, Tyreek Stevenson. He really gave us some fits last year. And then bringing in guys like Kevin Byard. I mean, that's not a roster that you could just ignore. And as far as the Green Bay Packers, I think that they've just been a mixed bag for too often. You just don't know who's going to show up, but bringing in Xavier McKinney is huge. So I'm going to put the Packers at number 2, the Bears at number 3. And even though the Vikings, have Harrison Smith, Cameron Bynum, I still think that they're at the bottom at number 4. So I would agree with PFF there that the Vikings are at the bottom. What do you guys think? It's been a long show. And I think that, we've spoken a lot here about all of these different teams. We didn't do a high level overview. We didn't compare all the stats and all the figures and all of that. It's kind of just, just a review of what's on paper right now. But I'm sorry I had to throw the paper away for the last moment. So the last part of today, I'll save for tomorrow. I wanted to look at the practice squads and kind of duke it out, like who's got the better practice squad. But because these practice squads are still ever changing right now, we really can't do that. Let's wait another day, and we'll finish that off tomorrow when we should have more information. I'm assuming that there's going to be, or we'll do it tonight if we get the right information. I assume that, we'll get things figured out by the end of the day, potentially. So there's your question. Who are the Lions going to be bringing in? They have couple of spots open right now, which I find very odd that they're leaving a 53 at 52. I just haven't seen that before. And I'm sure it's been done before. I just haven't ever really noticed it. And then, your practice squad, all these different moves, bringing in too many players that, you really, I guess the Lions missed the boat on that one. They brought in too many players that had too much accrued seasons. If that's what we heard this morning is correct. I'll dive into it. We'll be ready for tonight on Off the Cuff right back here at 7 p.m. Appreciate you guys for hitting all the likes this morning and propelling us out into the algorithm. And, of course, all of your support. You guys keep making me have to do work here. I've got to redo all the member shout-outs again. I just did it last night, but you know what? That's a good problem to have. The support is great. It's needed. You guys are the best. We are just over 1 week away from opening night. LA Rams coming to Detroit. Are we ready? I know I am. Hope to see you guys there. Hope to see you back here tonight on Off the Cuff. And as always, thank you. I appreciate that, Mike Pieces. Great show as always. But as always, go One Pride, go Detroit Lions. We'll see you back here in about 9 hours. Take care.
Adam Schefter at ESPN says there's 275,000 people.
Well, that was some party in downtown Detroit. 775,000 people shattering the NFL draft attendance record.
This is the future.
All greats.
Evolution. This is the future.
All greats.
Evolution.